I believe we've got just the right balance between complete excellence in everything we do and the collegiate, friendly nature in which we deploy what we do. And if we can do that to our maximum, that will keep everybody happy, and a happy ship is a happy place.
I like that people are very grounded. I think it's not true of every chambers that people are easygoing for the most part, easy to approach, willing to help colleagues. It's an extremely collegiate place, and one of our non-negotiable criterion is to be someone who's good to work with and who's going to be a great colleague to have in chambers.
When I joined chambers 20-something years ago, there were about 40 or 50 of us, and now there are about 100. I don't think its core ethos has changed though. It remains a very supportive and collegiate environment, and it remains an environment that wants people to do well. I think that starts off in pupillage. We want our pupils to succeed. As soon as you get into tenancy, we want our tenants to succeed, and I've never felt an unhealthy sense of competition.
You know, as a pupil, somebody coming here, they're young entrepreneurs, actually, developing a career. But what I instill upon chambers, and certainly as part of my overall thinking, is to ensure that we have a place where they can develop their careers to the maximum.
We are a top-tier commercial set with a broad range of expertise across multiple sectors. Now, I've been here for over 20 years, so I know what a great place it is to work, not just in terms of the collegiate and friendly environment, but also that this is a place where you can achieve your ambitions, and everyone around you will actively help you to do that.
One of the advantages of 4 New Square as a set is that there is a real variety of practice areas, and there are lots of different members doing lots of interesting work at the very highest level. So whether you're interested in sports law, whether you are interested in doing a big commercial fraud case, whether you want to be a more specialist practitioner in an area like costs, these are all areas of work that chambers can not just support you with, but make part of your day-to-day.
I've done a mix of civil, fraud, commercial and sports work, and the percentage that I do of each of those sort of varies from year to year. At the moment it's very heavily sports law focused, so mainly because I've had quite a few big sports cases that have taken up a lot of my time. But even within the sports law work, it's so varied. Just even at the moment I've got a huge commercial case on sports world, and then I've just finished the Yannick Sinner case, so for the world #1 tennis player. He was charged with 2 doping violations, so that was one of the most legally interesting doping cases I think I've ever done, actually. But a lot of pressure because he's a world #1 tennis player and they're threatening to ban him for 1 to 2 years, which obviously gets a lot of attention.
There are people who come to chambers who want to do sports and they can do that. There are people who want to do construction and they can do that. And you know, within our broad range of practice areas, there are real specialists and you can make a real success. In my case, commercial disputes, financial services, fraud. One of my major practice areas, which is a growing sector in disputes in England and Wales, is securities litigation. So claims by shareholders against listed firms in respect of what they have said to the market or what they haven't said to the market. Some substantial cases in that sector have got very close to trial or to trial, and it's been a very interesting process being at the forefront of the development of the law in that area.
Well, my practice is almost exclusively in the areas of cost law and litigation funding. And I think it's fair to say that anyone who's at the university stage or anyone who hasn't yet practiced in litigation isn't going to know much about cost law and litigation funding, and I think that's entirely fair. At its most basic level, there's not much point in pursuing a claim for £1 million if you're going to spend £2 million doing it and not be able to claim that back. At a more complex end of the spectrum, most, if not all, of the large-scale group actions and class actions that go through the courts nowadays really require litigation funding in order to get off the ground. And so coming up with arrangements that work and are fair for the clients, for the law firms, for the funder from the outset is really crucial to any major piece of litigation.
Mainstay of my practice is commercial disputes, and I try to keep that broad, and it will include civil fraud, banking cases, professional negligence, shareholder disputes, offshore cases. And then alongside that, I have two other practice areas which I very actively maintain. One is sports law, which again is broad in itself. It can be anything from a doping matter to a selection dispute for a major championships, or a regulatory issue, or a player-agent dispute, or advising on sports governance. And then the last area I do, but which is also equally important to me, is some work I do in the public law space. Primarily at the moment for the British government in areas such as sanctions, work for the Foreign Office, the Treasury, other departments of central government.
The core areas of my practice are acting for professional people who are either being sued by their former clients or who are in trouble with their regulators. That can arise in a very broad variety of areas. So for instance, if there's a big corporate collapse, the regulators can end up going after a company's auditors, or solicitors can find themselves embroiled in fraudulent transactions or in pieces of litigation that go wrong. Some of the allegations I deal with could be career-ending for the professional people involved, so it's a real responsibility, but also a great privilege to help them through those times.
So the support both from the clerk's room and from colleagues in chambers is phenomenal. People are always keen, people are always coming up with ideas, and the clerk's room is very supportive with that as well. And if there's an area that you want to develop your practice in, there will be people who will help you to do that.
The working culture at Forney Square for me has always been brilliant. From the outset of tenancy, I found senior members of chambers and silks were incredibly supportive. In terms of the support you get from the clerks, I mean, my relationship with my clerk, Jim, is brilliant. And I think that relationship between the clerk and the barrister is crucial. From my experience, you are a real team at Forney Square, and both of you need to do well for that team to succeed.
Our workplace culture is really important here. That is, the bedrock of that is people feeling like they enjoy the company, the people they work with, and that we're building and always working on something together, and that's really important.
Doors are open, you can wander in and out of each other's rooms, people talk about their cases, and that's really one of the great things about practice, to know what other people are doing, so that when you have a question you can go and ask them and they can come and ask you.
But one of the advantages of being a large set is there's always enough people around that you can walk down the corridor, find someone who wants to get a coffee, wants to go for lunch, perhaps wants to go for a beer after work.
What I also really like about it is a feeling that we're in a collective endeavour. We do a lot of planning for our business developments and marketing together, and it feels like a really cohesive and collaborative place to work.
And then I really like the entrepreneurial attitude, the willingness to try and break new ground, develop our practice in new areas, or devote resources to particular areas where we feel we can make progress as a set. So Chambers has made enormous progress in the time I've been here. We're one of the only sets at the bar, probably the only set at the commercial bar to have a female senior clerk. We've had a female head of chambers who's now Lady Chief Justice.
And then there's the ambition of the set as a whole, which is, to my mind, always and must always be on an upward trajectory. There's never a sort of landing point there, that just has to keep going. That's developing excellence, ensuring that we are and maintain our position as a leading commercial set. It's very important to me. So pupils are the new blood of the future. So it's maintaining that cycle that's very important.